Blake, do you finally want to confess on the pod what you have done?
What I've done? I'm ready to talk about your arrestable offense.
Welcome to the Church Gear Podcast, where we pull the tech out of the booth and onto the stage to share the most outlandish stories and hidden wisdom from the tech trenches. And now, here are your hosts.
I'm your co-host, Blake Hodges, a man who literally had to step in and save a woman from Toby at FILO, and I'm here in court with the plaintiff in question, Toby Walters.
Did they give me a mic in court? Am I sitting in court and they're like, here, do the podcast from court?
If you don't get a mic in court, how do they put it on the news?
That's a good point. You actually made a point that makes a little bit of sense.
There we go.
So, Blake, we've added this new segment onto the podcast called Church Tech Confessional.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's listened to it because that's the very end of the episode. So this might be the first time they know it exists.
And so we were at FILO and we offered to the community, like, hey, if you have a confession, come to our booth and, record it. It's fully anonymous. We use a voice changer and it's at the end of this episode. So listen all the way through and you will hear a confession. What kind of stuff can they expect to hear, Blake?
Let's just say we had people's mic packs ending up in undesirable places. We had things catching on fire. And we had, borderline arrestable offenses, kind of like what you did, trying to get someone over to our booth.
Yeah, and of course, there's backstory. You didn't see the backstory,
Can I say what I saw before the back?
Yes, you can say.
I want the listener to visualize this. So we're at FILO, which, welcome, this is one of our 2 FILO podcasts, and I just see Toby dragging this young woman by a backpack. I mean, she's probably 23 and very much shorter than Toby, which, Toby's pretty short. So, I mean, she's like 3 feet tall. And I'm like, what is happening right now? I literally shouted from across the room and said, Toby, unhand that woman.
So we'll give the backstory here. So I don't have any problem saying, like, I have favorites in the church production community, and I won't say who they are, but I'll talk about one, Grace Church in Noblesville, Indiana. And Ryan Mickens and his team are just some of the greatest humans on the planet. So I got to visit Grace Church. They have just a really cool space and a great team. And their team is it's super diverse, and they have the most fun that I've ever experienced with a church production team. So we went out to lunch when I was there. We bonded over Mexican food and tacos. That's kind of my love language.
I was going to say, how does someone become your favorite? So far, they've been fun, diverse, Mexican food. I mean, they've hit all the boxes.
Yeah, and so they came to FILO, and they were at the Amplio after party, and so I was hanging out with their team. There were 6 of them there. And so we're all chatting at the Amplio after party and just having a great time. And then I mentioned about the confessional, and they all point to, and I won't say her name because she was so embarrassed about doing the confession.
Oh, well, we might have already given away too much.
No, they have 2 girls on the team. So,
okay.
50-50 shot. And so they all point at her and they oh, she has a confession. And she's like, no, I could never say that, on a microphone, on a recording. And so I just look at her. I'm like, oh, it's happening. And she's like, no. And the rest of the team's like, oh, yes, it is. So the next day at FILO, I'm coming back from something and walking back towards the booth, and I see their team walking by. And this had to be a moment orchestrated by God, because she was directly in my line, my pathway back to the booth.
Toby, you know who used the same excuse orchestrated by God? The Crusades. The Crusades, Toby.
So this was a crusade for an amazing church tech confession. So she's walking by, and I grab her by the backpack and just start steering her towards the booth. And her whole team sees what's happening, and they just think it's the funniest thing. They're all laughing, and they're like, yes, you have to do it. You have to do it. But back at the Church Gear booth, all you guys see is me dragging some girl to our booth.
I mean, yeah, right? If you're listening to this, and I'm glad I got to say my part first so you could visualize no backstory, it's what is happening? What did Toby unhand this woman?
So she did very graciously come over and record the confession. It's not on this episode, or maybe it is, because it's all anonymous. I don't even know which ones are which. But it was just fun too. Her whole team was working against her, and it was definitely a conspiracy.
I see. You know what? Actually, it is more anonymous than I think, because you don't know whose episode is going to get what confessional. They all have a voice changer, so really, there's no way to even point it back to her, even though we know that she's in the running for one of those. I didn't think it was that bad. It wasn't the worst one we heard that weekend.
I didn't even hear it. I stayed back because, she was so shy about it that I was like, well, I'll just be over here and I won't even listen.
Yeah, that's too far to listen. I mean, dragging her to the booth is not bad, but.
And then also we had one of our good buddies in church production. He gave 3 confessions and all of them were around like potty humor. And these were amazing stories. And I cannot wait for these to come out.
Yeah, so if you haven't listened to the very end of the episode where our church Tech Confessionals are, make sure you check them out. And live brainstorm moment, in this moment, Toby, we ought to just, at the end of each year, maybe we do a compilation episode. It's just all of them in one episode. That's like a bonus thing.
A church gear confession, because we've never had, usually we just say what we've done because we have no shame at church gear, but it could be a moment for us to share some of those things.
I like that.
And Blake, I'm thinking, you're saying that I am the plaintiff in question. So I feel like, we're going to a live episode at podcast. So should we say like, let's go to the tape?
Yes, let's go to the tape for our one of 2 FILO podcast episodes.
Introducing the production and integration lead director. Feels like I'm ringside right now at Sun Valley Community Church and hair model, Matt Kotthoff.
Hair model. I
Hair
love
model.
it. Thanks for having me.
And did I say your last name correctly?
You did.
Great.
10 out of 10.
I mean, Blake would have butchered it.
Let's see what I would have done. I would have done Matt Kotthoff.
I mean, that still works.
I would have really pronounced the T's. There's 2 T's. That means they really want the T.
I want it to be cut off. Like he wears, cut off jean shorts.
I mean, it can be.
Yeah.
It can be whatever you guys want to be.
Matt
Do you
Kotthoff.
have any cut off jean shorts?
I do not, but in high school, it was cut off.
Yeah.
Like cut off, yeah.
I mean, you're out in the Phoenix area, so I assume cut off shorts would be very helpful in the summer.
Well, that was back. Oh, I'm not going to say that because I'll give away one of my truths and lies.
Okay.
So.
Speaking of.
Yeah, speaking of what, Blake?
We could go to the truths and the lies, but we should get some background about this background noise.
Yes.
We are at FILO right now,
Yes, we are.
2024. Toby, how's FILO going for you?
Well, just a little context. I just walked into the women's restroom.
On purpose?
No, I was looking at my phone and thought I knew exactly where the bathroom was, and I did. It was just not the one I should have been in, so I very quickly realized my mistake and then found the men's next door.
Toby, what have I told you about going into the women's restroom?
I forget because you've told me too many times now.
We're going to have to start deleting things out of your brain so we can put new ones in there. Speaking of some new things I'd like to put into your brain, it is Matt. Kotthoff's 5 truths. Kotthoff's 5 truths and a lie. All right, Matt, here we go. Number 1, he was born and raised in Minnesota, which, fun fact, I thought was a city until 2 years ago.
Are you serious?
Oh my gosh.
Minnesota Vikings.
Wow.
Don't chase it down.
How about Tennessee Titans?
Don't chase
Blake?
it down. Don't chase it down.
Is Tennessee a city too?
The intelligence is dropping.
Oh my gosh.
Number 2, he was the DJ and emceed 92 wedding receptions. Now, did you get married at all of them?
I did not.
I DJ'd a few weddings before I was married, and I had the
Where's
line.
the footage
so
of that?
when what is it, like all the single ladies come out and they do the garter toss? Is that what it is?
Yes, yep.
And so and now, to be fair, this was before I was married. I was single, so I said, okay, all the single ladies in the room, we need you to all gather right here and head out to my car, and I'm going to get every single one of your numbers.
Oh my gosh.
And like the whole room every time just erupted into laughter. It played so well. And I was like, just kidding, out on the dance floor. But
What Toby was hearing as laughter was actually awkward shrugs and sighs and the calls of the cops.
yeah.
Okay, number 3, he has a degree in audio integration technology.
I didn't know you could get a degree in that, but okay.
That one's true. You should come work at Church Gear.
Yeah.
Number 4, he has 4 pups, a Cavalier King Charles. 4 Cavalier King Charles
Use
pups.
your words.
My best friend has 2 of those.
Okay.
Number 5, he served in FT ministry for 12 years.
What does FT stand for, Blake?
Fellowship Trust
I was going to say
Ministry.
free throws.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, what is FT? Well, okay.
Full time?
Oh my
Let's try that
gosh.
one. Full time.
That's because Blake is very PT at Church Gear after this podcast.
Oh my.
All right, Ross, cut that. Number 5, he
No, keep
served
that in there, Ross.
full-time ministry for 12 years. Number 6, he met his wife asking for numbers at a wedding reception. I'm just kidding. He met his wife on eHarmony.
Oh, this is fun.
You'd have to be like 100 to meet his wife
No,
on eHarmony,
well, our
right?
small group leaders were one of the very first because the wife in the couple that leads our small group in my church, she worked for, Dr. Neil, I forget his name, who started eHarmony. And so they have a literal poster like eHarmony advertised them as a successful couple for the first time ever. But I mean, eHarmony's been going for 25 years. So, it could have been 2 years ago. It could have been 15 years ago for Matt.
That's a lot of pressure to be the poster child for eHarmony.
Okay, I'm locking in mine first because I want to. I'm going to say he does not have a degree in audio integration technology. I'm not even sure that's a thing. But maybe all the integrators out there are like, yes, it is, you idiot. So
based upon his expression, I'm very sad. I think you've already beaten me. I'm going to say he doesn't have 4 pups. That's just a lot of pups. I think maybe he's got 3. So, Matt, we are locked in. I got the pups, and Toby has the fake degree, which he only said because he never got his. What is the lie?
Is there a drum roll? Blake, you are correct.
What?
I
said
do.
Nobody ever.
I just did. I do have a degree in audio integration technology from Ridgewater College in Hutchinson, Minnesota. Hutchinson is the town. Just
in the city of Minnesota?
Minnesota.
In
Blake,
the city.
you're fired.
In the city, yes.
Well, haven't been fired on the podcast in a while, but
I like how you got the lie right, but you didn't know what FT stood for.
Toby, being so wrong and actually it working out is my thing, man.
Yeah, kind of does. Okay, so what, for a lot of our listeners, what in the world does an audio integration technology degree consist of?
Oh my gosh, everything from soldering to system design, system integration, and you name it. Mounting a TV on the wall to figure out splay angles of a line array, figuring out soldering a DVI-D cable. That was in the finals. It was rough. But
Okay.
it was fun.
We went to the Cubs game last night, and they have this new thing up on the board. When a hitter comes up, they show his spray chart. And so it's like how many hits he has depending on the part of the outfield. Is there such a thing as a spray chart when it comes to like deploying an audio system?
No.
Toby just really wanted to talk about the spray chart from last night, clearly.
What's it called when you're trying to figure out like where the sound goes?
The splay angles?
The splay angles?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
See, I was close.
That's not that far off, actually.
You're
Thank you.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Matt, you're here at FILO teaching a session. Tell us a bit about that session. What's the topic? What were your main points? Did anyone yell and throw you out during the session?
Not yet, because it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So this is happening tomorrow in the advanced session. So it's user-friendly audio control with QSYS. So
Explain that to us, Blake.
Yeah, so this is when you have audio control via a QSYS, and it's full.
Great.
I basically just taught the session.
Perfect. We'll dive into UCIs and how to deploy those, how it kind of came to be. I was talking to some of the leadership here at FILO, and I was helping out a couple other churches here that we just met, networking, and all of a sudden they were kind of going, yeah, well, we got this core, and we're using these 4-channel Yamaha mixers in all of our student rooms and next-gen rooms. I said, well, if you've got a core, we could just put everything on that, build out a UCI right on your iPad, and you can control all of it right on your iPad and get away from the Yamaha little mixing desk and everything like that. And then that kind of kick-started this, and now we're teaching the course on how to do that. So,
is QSYS kind of taking over the world a little bit?
I mean, I think so. I love it. It's our whole ecosystem at Sun Valley. So every campus has one core, acts as our brain for the entire campus. So all of our next gen rooms and everything feed back into that and then get processed and then go back out to those rooms and all on iPad control.
So Blake, one of the cool things about QSYS, do we have a
guest appearance?
what do they call it? Cameo?
Oh yeah, we can call it that.
Do you want to announce yourself if people don't recognize
Todd
your voice?
Elliott, Mr. FILO.
Mr. FILO.
Yeah.
Yes, welcome to the pod.
Thank you. What are we talking about?
We're talking about who is smarter, you or Matt Kotthoff. So this is great. We have you both on now.
Are you Matt?
I am.
Yeah, no, we've
Great
never
to meet
met.
you now.
He's teaching a session for you, Todd.
This is great.
Yeah, how's it feel under the bus there, Todd?
Yeah, no, I'm good. Yeah. Thanks for being here, Matt.
Absolutely.
What are you teaching on?
QSYS.
Acoustics,
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, all right.
QSYS.
Q-sis is different than acoustics.
Yes, very just a little bit.
This is
Well,
amazing
thank you.
right
That's
now.
cool. Yeah. I could probably learn a few things.
Todd, do you know anything about marketing and in the relation it works to church gear? Because we have an opening.
I don't know. Actually.
Blake just didn't know what FT ministry was.
didn't know what was
FT.
FT. Oh, sorry, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's cute. He tries. Todd, is there Q-sis in, does Willow have Q-sis?
Oh, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Or if we did, it was so long ago that.
It's so fun going on tours to churches and the techs want to show off their system and they just pull out their iPhone. They're like, let me show you what it does. And they just go to their iPhone. I'm like, whoa.
Wow.
Is this like giving new freedom and new life to the church production community? They could like be on vacation, but still like turn on the TV in classroom 17.
I mean, I guess they could. Yeah, sure. I don't know why you
really
would
sound
want
like
to,
more
but
freedom.
Yeah.
To be on vacation. Yeah. And
I think it's
working.
user friendly. Puts everything when you're working at the palm of your hand.
Right.
I'm just wondering, there's a tagline for Q-sis, Q-sis giving production people their time back since 2020. Maybe.
Sure. Yeah. It could be a thing.
Yeah.
They're probably looking for a marketing person. So Toby, you might want to apply.
You're now back on the FT market, Blake.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, Todd, for joining us. That is the only reason I work at Church Gears, for these fleeting moments of Todd's presence.
I do sometimes suspect you only work at Church Gears so you can hang out with the wonderful people in the production community like Todd and Matt.
Yes, that is it, Toby. I put up with you to be with them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So Matt, outside of FILO, tell us about your current role, where you are, what you're doing, what that entails.
Absolutely. Currently, I'm the production and integration lead director at Sun Valley Community Church. Our broadcast campus is in Gilbert, Arizona, just a suburb of Phoenix. We have 6 locations, physical locations throughout the valley. And then we also have 1 location that's located inside of a prison. So 7 really total. I have about eight on my team currently, so consisting of production directors for campuses, and then live video director, and then lighting and media director. We're also looking for our lighting and media director.
Can I apply? I just found out I'm unemployed.
Does he need to know anything about
I was
lighting?
really hoping you were going to ask.
Here we go. Enough MXU videos can solve anything.
So that's kind of who we are, and it's super great.
So production and integration is basically like 2 sides of the same coin, like your team oversees both in a sense?
Yeah, so within my team, it's almost like I oversee both sides of the coin, I guess. So there's one side that's production, solely like focused on mixing A1 and that volunteer recruiting aspect for satellite campuses and our broadcast campus. And then there's the integration side, where we have a technical integration director, Jacob. He's awesome. He's also teaching the class with me here at FILO tomorrow. So it's kind of like support and execution. So
do you have kind of a baseline rule of where in-house integration stops and then you bring in an outside integration company?
Yeah, honestly, where it makes sense to. So really, it's we just did this major project at our Gilbert campus. It's our broadcast campus. Put in a Meyer Panther PA. It was awesome. So like, it's something like that where like it takes. There's science behind it. It's not like we're just going to throw a speaker up on the ceiling, point it, and call it a day. There's science behind it. There's design behind it, and we also want the manufacturers like back us. We want them to back us as well. So having them involved with the design, having them involved with the whole process, it sets us up for success, and they're able to help us as well and learn from us, and makes everything better. So yeah.
Is there an unspoken statement of when people can die, then we bring in the experts, or like, can you rig up a line array if you need to?
I mean, if I need to, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we fly trusses in-house. We do all of our lighting stage designs all in-house. So we mock it up in 3D design. Then we go to get the team together, and here we go. We're going to have a team project day. So
Do you have specific things that you would advise other church production staffs, like, maybe stay away from this if you're not 100%, certified or comfortable or?
yeah, absolutely. Like, anything over people's heads, like projectors flown, TVs flown, truss flown. I mean, even key lighting, front lighting, that's just as simple as a C-clamp. I mean, make sure there's a safety cable on it. But yeah, if there's any point where it's like, I'm not quite sure about this, yeah, asking for help is huge because it's a huge liability. We want to be safe.
If it could fall and make a crater, call an integrator.
Love
Wow.
Anybody
it's almost
can-
like you're a marketing guy.
Oh, am I rehired?
No, you work for QSIS now.
Oh, okay. That's cool. I'll just bounce around.
Yeah, Blake, how many disaster stories have we had on the pod about something falling and nearly killing somebody?
This is the thing. When we started this podcast, I would joke about, oh, someone could die. I realized quickly that's not a joke. You have to be careful. And it's now every time we go into the movie theater, I have seats that I do and do not sit in because I know the speakers are above my head.
You hope those speakers in the theater.
I would hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certified integrator with.
All
I
right,
would hope.
Here we go. Church Gear After Dark. Me and two other Church Gear employees are hanging out at a spot late night, doesn't matter what time, in Nashville. And we're talking to some guys who just got off of, we won't say the venue, but a very famous venue in Nashville. And they're telling us how they were rigging stuff. But there were some people who were non-union on this project, and they said the stuff they were installing was very dangerous, and haven't been back to that venue since. So, yes, this is important.
Yes.
Any non-union work happening at Sun Valley?
No, not at all.
Tell us about, I don't know if many or any churches have a Panther system yet. Do you know of any, and how is it so far? Are you guys loving it?
Yeah. I think we're one of 3 in the countries right now, I believe. There's a couple on the East Coast. I think we are the first church, though, with like the full Panther system, including the 2100 subs. So yeah, the PA is great. I mean, it's unbelievable. Our integrator, after we installed it, we're one of our services, it's a little less like capacity, so they shut down the balcony, and it was us 4 up there, and that entire service, we were literally having a emotional moment, crying, and it's just incredible how linear that system is and how it sounds at 60 dB, and then we can go 97, 98, and that's just tickling the Panther. The Panther wants to eat. It's hungry. So
how much has Panther eaten when nobody else is in the room except the production crew?
Oh boy, I don't even know if I want to go into that. She's hungry. We'll just say that.
They rode the Dragon Panther.
It's a great time.
What did you guys come from in your PA?
Yeah, so we stuck with Meyer. So we had Meyer Leopard in there. We were just maxing, it's a 1,200 seat capacity room roughly. We were just maxing out that Leopard, like we were using it 5 days out of the week to 95% capacity. We were squeezing every single dB out of that thing we could. So we actually ended up moving that to our other campus and put in Panther. And now we're sitting at like 60% like usage in Panther, and Leopard at the other campus is like 60% usage. So we kind of bought life into Leopard at that other campus. So
what's kind of your guys' philosophy of when you take out old gear, store it, trash it, repurpose it, sell it to church gear? Like, where does your general philosophy fall?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it just depends on the gear, right? Like we did sell a couple things to church gear recently. And those are things that we're just not going to use, and there's no use to have it on the shelf. So things that we keep around are stuff that we are currently using at another campus or that we might kind of dabble back into. But for the most part, like if we're not using it, Next Gen Rooms isn't going to use it, and we already phased it out. It's like, okay, we're gonna sell it and move on, or donate it to another church.
How do you advise churches on, when to know? Like, you took out old stuff. Should you get rid of it? Should you put it in the kids' room? How do you make those distinctions of whether it's a valuable resource for your church anymore or not?
Yeah. Honestly, to be completely blunt, if it makes my life easier, I keep it because if it's old gear that we pull out, and it was old and it was cumbersome and it was just, we would have to troubleshoot it, or we would have to do like some major training on it. Okay, nope, we're not going to have that. We're going to get rid of that, pass that on. And then if it's something that is like relatively new and would help us and better us and move us forward and that space forward and those volunteers forward in that ministry area, then that's when we choose to install it, hang on to it for that purpose.
Do you guys ever have hard conversations with your, executive leadership? They see something coming down and they're thinking, oh, great, we could put that over here. And you're thinking, no, we can't. We still need to buy something over there. Like just, having those conversations about what things cost versus headaches if you don't spend the money.
Yeah, I wouldn't say hard conversations. I mean, they're conversations that we just have to have in this industry, in this field, and the more communication, the better. And not so much. I mean, it's as long as we have open communication with our upper leadership and they understand like the vision and where we're going, and they are like buying into that, and we're buying into their vision, and we can like are parallel, and we keep moving forward. It's pretty straightforward and pretty easygoing.
So we're here at FILO and we're in the, exhibitor area out in the lobby, and I'm still just, every time I think of it, distracted by the Quantum 8 down there. It's the first time I've seen one in person. What do you think senior leadership's response would be if you tried to convince them you need a Quantum 8?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't try and convince them of that. That sounds like a bad career move. But no, honestly, like a few years ago, we did the Quantum 338, and we were upgrading from the SD8. So it was a massive leap and bound.
Yeah.
Like we were really, so it was the conversation of like, we're not we didn't go to it saying, well, this is the newest, latest and greatest, shiniest toy. Like that Quantum 825 is gorgeous. Like I would love to have that, but just being good stewards of what we're given. I can't do that. I can't go and ask leadership of that. I want to make sure that we get the right gear we need. That's for the right purpose, right? It's how we use the technology for the greater purpose, and not about having the latest and greatest shiny things. So, yeah.
You just put in a Panther. What have you guys had conversations of leadership expectations of saying, okay, this new system, it's amazing. It's going to be amazing for our community, but this isn't the end of the line for our church. If we have a long-term vision, how do you usually tell senior leadership, like, expect X amount of time out of your gear and start planning for the next thing, when?
Yeah, 100%. So we're a Google-based church, so we got Google Sheets, and I have a master inventory sheet of every single piece of gear across all of our campuses, and with that is life expectancy and estimated cost to replace it. And every quarter, it's just a meeting with those senior leaders of like, hey, this is coming up down the pipe. This is like what's coming up in the next 12 months. This is what's coming up 36 months, and this is 5 years out. And just kind of so they understand the roadmap and making sure that we're aligned on it, and they're understanding it, and we're just communicating to them the why again. I think that's the biggest thing. So yeah, just kind of documenting that and having that ready to go. And yeah, like that PA, it won't be there forever, but it was a good investment, and it's going to be there for 10, 15, probably 20 years. So
Blake, did you have just a little, get a little teary-eyed from his organizational sheet of...
Yes, that is the stuff of our dreams. I also wonder if Toby and I were on your sheet, what would our life expectancy be?
That's a great question.
Let's explain what Blake eats on a day-to-day basis.
What is the shortest life expectancy of any gear you've ever bought?
Black Magic.
Oh, no.
Sorry. Was that too quick?
We don't sell Black Magic gear. Totally.
But it's inexpensive, and it's great for what we use it for. Like, we buy it. I mean, it's almost like kind of candy almost. You just buy it. Those little converters, the SDI to HDMI, HDMI SDI. So, but yeah, that's probably on the shortest list.
It's
great.
Inexpensive and it's great. That sounds like me. I love it.
Exactly.
I mean, basically what Matt is saying, get your candy at churchgear.com.
Oh,
so we got all the Black
goodness.
Magic gear.
Okay.
Love that.
This is not a churchgear.com ad. Matt, I want to go back one question on, like, as you're phasing gear in and out.
Yeah.
How many backups is enough backups? Like, that's the lie that keeps stuff in closets for long past its usefulness.
Yeah.
How many backups do you need to feel safe? And then you go, all right, I don't need this backup.
Yeah. For us, I think it's a little different because we've got 6 campuses. So like if one piece of gear goes out, like if we have a really crazy weekend, we could be in trouble if we just got one on the shelf. But again, it depends on what it is. Like network switches at all times, like, yeah, I want to have 4 on the shelf. We've got 2 right now. QSC cores, I always have 2 on the shelf. But but really it just depends on what it is, because like, even with talking with leadership, it's like, how redundant can we actually be? Like, if we're going to be completely redundant, have backup gear on the shelf, well, we need 2 Quantum 338s. We need 2 SD racks. We need a second power source coming into the building. We need a secondary ISP coming into the building. We need a secondary circuit breaker on this. Like, where does it stop? Like, the backup of the backups. So that's always my philosophy of like, if I have 1 backup, if not 2, that's great. But it all depends on the gear. If it's mission critical, we always have 1. Like, projectors. We are all center screen projectors at all of our playback campuses. And so we have a giant Panasonic laser projector sitting in a Pelican case, ready to be out with a lens, just ready to go at any given time, because it's mission critical. If that projector goes down on campus, well, the message isn't being shown. It's a complete roadblock. So depends on how severe that gear is.
Projectors never go down.
No, never.
What is the most fickle piece of gear across the AVL world as a broad category, would you say?
Honestly, I would say stuff with lighting, SMPTE, timecode, DMX. I take that away. DMX is good. It's just all the inner workings of lighting, like SACN, like how it communicates to Resloom, how it communicates to ProPresenter. Of course, that's networking, but everything else is good. Dante's good. Everything else, our comms are good. But yeah, I would say lighting's definitely the most fickle.
Blake, can you just re-explain what he just said in simple terms?
Yes, you need to make sure you've got all your redundancies figured out. For example, I have Brian on backup. If Toby ever goes out, that's my redundancy. It's important to have a lot of redundancies.
I wonder if we can get a second marketing director.
You think you can get more redundant
so
than
that
me?
You can be the backup. How would you like to be the backup on the shelf? Oh, Brian's raising his hand in the background. Would Brian like to be?
I'm already the marketing director.
Oh, that is a good
minute.
point. Yeah.
Now I have to knife Brian later.
Oh my God.
Don't come for my job. All right.
Okay, Matt. Or
No, that's fine.
okay. I assume you've been to other churches. You've probably seen a lot of churches. Do you have just common things you see over and over again that you're like, I wish I could tell every church, do this, this, and this to make everything easier? Common mistakes you see?
Just keep it simple. I mean, that's the big thing that I've been seeing lately. Like, of course, we all know the mega churches and what they're doing. Some of them are breaking into the AR realm and stuff like that, and which is great. It's awesome. I personally want to do that as well. But a lot of the churches I walk into, and once I have the opportunity to help out, I just walk in and they're just trying to do too much. And it's not that they don't have enough resources, but it's like, let's just strip this back. Like, worship, like, Jesus isn't hard. Like, we can have worship with this technology and use it for a greater purpose, with the stuff you currently have in a much better way that provides a much better experience about time coding. They want to time code every song and have this automation go at this time. It's like, there's nothing wrong with having a person sit in that lighting seat, pushing the Go Plus button and going along with the flow of the worship and having a very well executed service. There's nothing wrong with that. So like, keeping it simple, asking for help, like, that's the biggest thing. Like, budgets are tight. Like, ministry budgets are just tight. And when we can't afford the latest and greatest, like, we go after some used gear. And then sometimes people think, well, I can do this myself. They did it themselves. And they get into it and it's like, well, they get halfway and that's kind of there. And then it causes more issues and then it causes distractions. And they could just get on a social media forum and ask the question and ask for help. And I think there'd be a ton of people just jumping in, wanting to help out, because I think we're all part of the Capital C Church, right? So,
Toby, it's just like Jesus said, my yoke is easy and light when you keep it simple with gear. I mean, we've had this for years now.
That's exactly what he said.
That's the quote.
Exactly.
I'm a huge proponent of, talking about asking for help, like reaching out to the production community around you.
Totally.
So I think there's, a lot of small churches out there that they don't have full-time production staff. They might have one volunteer who's trying to learn desperately on the fly. And I'm a huge proponent of go down the street to the big church and just ask, hey, can I hang out? Can I pick your brain and buy a cup of coffee and ask some questions? Like, In my experience, production people are very open to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's actually how we just hired on one of our campus production directors. He was volunteering at another church, just helping out. He wasn't employed. We didn't steal him. But he just said, hey, can I come hang for the day? He showed up. And all of a sudden, we really liked him. He jived with us. And then before you know it, he's in our culture and hanging out with us so much that we're like, we're looking for a campus production director. Would you be interested? His eyes lit up. It's like, okay, this is cool. And it was so fun because the interview process was so unique because of he already hung out with us. He already knew this stuff. But yeah, we honestly don't have that often. And I wish more people would because there's so many other churches. And I think it might be an intimidation thing, maybe. Like my early years, like, oh, they're a mega church. I'm not going to walk. They're busy. They've got their own stuff. But it's just the ask, right? It's just asking.
I don't want to broad statements about production people, but I think they're often underestimated by how much they desire to help. It's kind of why they went into production, because they're kind of helpers by nature.
100%.
And, I wanted to be the next big worship leader, next big Christian artist forever. And David Crowder and Chris Tomlin, like nicest guys in the world, but like they don't have a lot of time to help me because they're doing what they do. But production people at churches, they're so willing, they're so giving of their time. And so I would definitely encourage anybody to reach out to the big churches around you or just any other church around you and build that network.
Absolutely. Yep.
Do you have anything in your mind of, small church, very limited budget, put your money here to make the biggest difference?
Oh my gosh. That's a very broad question.
Yes, it is.
Toby, it's the Digico 8.
Is it
The Quantum 8, Blake.
Dang it.
man.
I know.
I guess if you're just a single site, small church, I think investing in audio is the key thing. If you're not live streaming, if you're just single site, getting people in the door, that's your main focus. An audio, a PA system can create a distraction very fast or create a distraction-free environment. And I think investing in a solid PA and having an integration team support you with that is probably the best investment for like a single site, small church, 100%. And it supports the band too. Like, assuming you have a worship band at this church, like that PA is going to give the worship band confidence on the platform, leading service. So it's like, it's a win for the tech at that church. It's a win for the congregation. It's a win for the worship band and even the teaching pastor. You don't have to worry about it. And it's crystal clear. It's multi-generational, right? So like, your 10-year-olds will hear it and your 90-year-olds will hear it with hearing aids. So, try and keep it simple.
I mean, you can certainly have a great mix or a terrible mix on a wide variety of systems, but a well thought, properly integrated system sure makes it a lot easier and more comfortable for your people.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Blake, it's not on here, but do we want to try for a disaster story or do you want to jump to our tech takeaway? I leave it to you,
Toby.
My FT friend.
Toby, that transition was a disaster. He always says my transitions are disasters. That was me impersonating
That wasn't
you.
even a transition. That was just lobbing you the ball.
Well, all right, and I spiked it on your face.
You dropped it with was that supposed to be a mafia?
No, that was my Toby impersonation.
I sound like I'm in the mob?
You identify, I guess, as being in the mob, but that's not true.
Sounds like I just woke up from like a 30-day nap and I'm in the mob.
The 30-day nap is accurate.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, if you woke up from a 30-day... Oh, man, apparently there's emergency tornado warnings going on.
Yeah.
Matt, if you were waking up for the 30-day nap, some disasters probably would have happened at your presence being gone. So tell us about a time that a disaster happened to you, or maybe one that you narrowly avoided.
Oh, a disaster? Well... We just recently, within the last 2 years, redid our video suite at our broadcast campus. And it was one of those that we had an extra room. So we built the brand new video suite over there in that extra room while we were still using the old one, the current one. And we had a 1 week period, 5-day window to cut over to the new video suite. And everything was going great. Everything was great. And we were kind of pushed. There were some roadblocks that we had with some gear not arriving on time, and one was faulty and all that stuff. Come to Saturday, and I won't name them specifically.
Tom.
We had a team member accidentally decided to do a firmware update on our core about 20 minutes before our very first service started. And
Whoops.
it was a derailment of all sorts. So, and this was at Broadcast Campus, so we had to communicate out. It was kind of a mad scramble, and turns out that the firmware update actually corrupted the core. So we had to force a factory reboot on it and push the file. What should have been a 5-minute process turned into 25 minutes, and it delayed 6 other campuses. And it was a fun conversation that next Monday with leadership. So, yep.
I don't know what to do with updates because we've heard so many stories where it's like we delayed them forever, and then when it happened, it destroyed everything. Then I've heard we did one and it destroyed everything. So you can't delay them, you can't do them. How do you survive these updates?
Yeah, do you want to do updates on Monday morning?
Yes, Monday morning or Sunday afternoon after services.
Blake, is there an update ever coming out for you?
I swear to you, Toby, I was about to say the same thing to you. Okay.
Even this tired at FILO, I can still beat you to these jokes, Blake.
Look, Yoda is still the master, even when Luke is doing his best.
And I do want to throw in real quick that I got to visit Matt's new production suite, video suite, and of all the churches I've seen, hundreds of churches, his was the cleanest and most organized. And maybe it's not Matt's suite, maybe it's Sun Valley suite, but yeah, props to having a clean and organized space.
It's a team effort.
Matt, maybe
Thank
next year you should teach organization in production next year.
Done. Oh yeah, we love a clean backstage. Yeah, everything has to be clean.
I can see the spreadsheet forming behind his eyes already.
Yep.
So, Matt, that could have been your tech takeaway, but too bad it didn't get out before it was time. So now, give us a tech takeaway to kind of wrap your episode on. What's something that you would leave the church production community with that would make their lives better and easier?
Man, I mean, I think we already just touched base on it, but don't be afraid to ask for help. And learn your community around you. In our community, there's so many churches, and honestly, it's just a text away, a phone call away to that technical director, that production director, meeting up for a cup of coffee, whatever it is, and just networking, because you never know when you may need them, or they maybe have a piece of gear that breaks on Saturday 10 minutes before, and they have it 2 minutes away across the street. You can go grab stuff like that. So I think communication and just having that open networking and relational skills, I think. Yeah.
And I'll throw out that, Blake, we have podcast at churchgear.com.
Oh, an email address? Yes.
Yeah. So if you are listening and you're like, I would love to meet people in my area, but I don't know them, please, and I sincerely mean this, send an email to podcast@churchgear.com. We know so many production leaders in so many churches all over America, and we would love to just introduce you via email, hey, here's 3 guys and girls in your town that would love to connect and build community. So we would happily champion that as much as we can.
And we will forward all those from podcast@churchgear.com to Toby@churchgear.com.
You're fired for giving out my email address.
You think that wasn't guessable?
It's very tricky.
Okay. Now,
how do you spell Toby, though?
Well, it always gets autocorrected to Tony now.
Yeah, there you go.
iOS update. Well, Matt, thank you for coming on the show. Is there anything you'd like to plug?
No. You guys are great. Thank you. Thanks for having me. This has been great.
Well, Matt, thank you for joining us for our first live from FILO episode. I guess we'll have another live from FILO episode next week. Hey, listeners, we're introducing a segment called Church Tech Confessionals. This is a time for any church tech to anonymously confess the worst thing they've ever done in church production. Here's one now.
I wanted to share a confession about something I did that was effective, but probably not in the best spirit of being a good Christian. I'm a volunteer tech lead. Our church is smaller, but everyone has watched the feeds from Elevation, Hillsong, etc., so that sets their expectations. But they don't just cast a vision, they cast instructions. You should do ABC with XYZ. I generally just go with it like improv because it's easier for them to experience it not work than for me to explain why it won't work. It's taken time up front, but it saved me from headaches later. But the one thing that I did that I regretted later, though it was effective, a background vocalist told me they couldn't hear the background vocals on the live stream. This was immediately after a Sunday morning where I had recorded tracks for virtual sound check. I assured them that they were in the stream, but they didn't drop it. So without another word, while most of the congregation were still milling about and chatting, I keyed up the tracks, peeled auto-tune, pulled everything down but the background vocals. Then, looking them dead in the eye, I pushed the DCA up for background vocals so they were riding about 8 or 9 dB over the band and lead vocals so they could hear how out of time and off-key they were. They just walked away. Hindsight, I should have put it in headphones instead of blasting it through the PA. Afterwards, the worship leader caught me and said, "That was rough." But no one has questioned my mixed decision since.
Hey, if you have your own 3 to 5 minute Church Tech Confessional, record it and send it to podcast@churchgear.com. And don't worry, we'll apply a voice changer and you'll be 100% anonymous. Your pastor will never know.
Thanks for hanging out with us. We hope to see you back next week for more absurd stories, tech takeaways, and overall buffoonery here at the Church Gear Studios.
Blake, should we just do the outro live here at FILO so we don't have to record it later?
Toby, it's on the schedule to do it later.
Well, I think, Matt said something so profound of feed the panther. And so, have we eaten anything interesting in Chicago yet?
We've had some deep dish pizza. I had thin crust. What have you had? Oh, we had the Chicago beef.
I went to Portillo's.
Nice.
That's one of the favorites. And then we were at the Cubs game, so I had a hot dog. I mean, just like good old American
I ate the
baseball food.
I ate the back half of your ice cream.
You did. Eat your boss's ice cream, right?
Eat your boss's ice cream.
Yeah, and while you're eating your boss's ice cream, what should you do?
You should be texting your boss, "Hey, you should listen to the Church Gear podcast," because then we'd have something to bond about and talk about later.
Yep, got to feed that panther.